We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Forgiveness is unlocking the door to set someone free and realizing you were the prisoner. Forgiveness doesn't make the other person right. It makes you free. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door of resentment and the handcuffs of hatred. It is a power that breaks the chains of bitterness and the shackles of selfishness. To be a Christian means to forgive the inexcusable because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. Forgiveness does not mean that we suppress anger. Forgiveness means that we have asked for a miracle, the ability to see through mistakes that someone has made to the truth that lies in all of our heart. Forgiveness is not always easy. At times, it feels more painful than the wound we suffered, to forgive the one that inflicted it. And yet, there is no peace without forgiveness. Attack thoughts towards others are attack thoughts towards ourselves. Forgiveness is manifested mercy. It is live in action, not love based on a feeling, but love based on a decision, an intentional choice to obey God. By far, the strongest poison to the human spirit is the inability to forgive oneself or another person. Forgiveness is no longer an option, but a necessity for healing. We all agree that forgiveness is a beautiful idea until we have to practice it. Those who cannot forgive others break the bridge over which they themselves must pass. When you forgive, you in no way change the past, but you sure do change the future. Forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a constant attitude. Forgiveness is not always easy. At times, it feels more painful than the wound we suffered to forgive the one that inflicted it. And yet, there is no peace without forgiveness. Never forget the 3 powerful resources you always have available to you: love, prayer, and forgiveness. The practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. When we hate our enemies, we are giving them power over us, power over our sleep, our appetites, our blood pressure, our health, and our happiness. Our enemies would dance with joy if only they knew how they were worrying us, lacerating us, and getting even with us. Our hate is not hurting them at all, but our hate is turning our days and nights into a hellish turmoil. We are all full of weakness and errors. Let us mutually pardon each other our follies. It is the first law of nature. Whatever our religion, we know that if we really want to love, we must first learn to forgive before anything else. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. When you hold resentment toward another, you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link and get free. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. The most miserable prison in the world is the prison we make for ourselves when we refuse to show mercy. Our thoughts become shackled, our emotions are chained, the will is almost paralyzed. But when we show mercy, all of these bonds are broken, and we enter into a joyful liberty that frees us to share God's love with others. True forgiveness is when you can say thank you for that experience. He that cannot forgive others breaks the bridge over which he must pass himself, for every man has need to be forgiven. Forgiveness is a sign that the person who has wronged you means more to you than the wrong they have dealt. Without forgiveness, life is governed by an endless cycle of resentment and retaliation. You can't forgive without loving. And I don't mean sentimentality. I don't mean mush. I mean having enough courage to stand up and say, I forgive. I'm finished with it. Forgiveness is God's invention for coming to terms with a world in which people are unfair to each other and hurt each other deeply. He began by forgiving us, and He invites us all to forgive each other. Forgiveness is an inner correction that lightens the heart. It is for our peace of mind first. Being at peace, we will now have peace to give to others, and this is the most permanent and valuable gift we can possibly give. There is no love without forgiveness, and there is no forgiveness without love. A happy marriage is the union of two good forgivers. Our capacity to make peace with another person and with the world depends very much on our capacity to make peace with ourselves. To err is human, to forgive, divine. Forgiveness is taking seriously the awfulness of what has happened when you are treated unfairly. Forgiveness is not pretending that things are other than the way they are. The more you know yourself, the more you forgive yourself. Today, I forgive all those who have ever offended me. I give my love to all thirsty hearts, both to those who love me and to those who do not love me. To begin loving people today, we must close the door on the past, and that cannot happen without forgiveness. Forgive those who have hurt you for your sake, not because they deserve it. When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. Forgiveness is the remission of sins, for it is by this that what has been lost and was found is saved from being lost again. In the presence of God, nothing stands between Him and us. We are forgiven, but we cannot feel His presence if anything is allowed to stand between ourselves and others. When you forgive, you must cancel the debt. Do not spend your life paying and collecting debts. The ineffable joy of forgiving and being forgiven forms an ecstasy that might well arouse the envy of the gods. I firmly believe a great many prayers are not answered because we are not willing to forgive someone.